Hey guys, Aisha here and welcome to my channel. I am back. I didn't realize it's been a month, but you know, life. I really didn't realize it's been a month. I was seriously on a roll. I was doing like one video a week, and I felt good about that. I was proud of that. I was like, I'm being consistent for once. And then I got sick and we went on a trip and all that good stuff, and now it's been a month. And I'm still not fully better yet, but I want to do this video, so here I am. So today's video, I realized I hadn't done a buried history video in a while, and this is one I want to talk about for a while now. I did have a bunch of other videos I don't know, I just wanted to post this one and then post the other videos that I have, because I have videos from my trip and stuff, and then other videos, but I really wanted to do this one right now because, like I said, I haven't posted a buried history video in a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing some makeup and do that. So let's get started. So today we're gonna be talking about Lake Lanier. It has it all. It has ghosts and ghost stories. So yeah, it has everything. It has ghost stories to go along with it, history. Everybody in Georgia knows about Lake Lanier. Most people in Georgia have been to Lake Lanier. It's a huge vacation spot, I should say. I've been a couple of times when I was a kid. I haven't been recently, but I didn't know the history of it until recently. And I wanted to do this video because, let me go ahead and get started because I always talk and I don't do anything. I wanted to do this video because I heard they were doing a movie about Lake Lanier. And from the few clips I saw, it was like a horror theme type movie. And I'm sure they're gonna like say something about the history of it, because I mean, you can't really not say anything about the history if you're gonna do a movie about it. So I'm not sure if that's still gonna happen or not, but anyway, that got me curious and I wanted to look into the history of Lake Lanier. I always heard that there were like these stories attached to it, but nobody would ever really like elaborate. They just kept saying that it was haunted. Like, that's all you would get from anybody around it. It's like, oh, Lake Lanier is haunted, it's cursed, don't go there, people die, people drown. Because the lake is cursed and haunted. So I did some research because I wanted to know, like, what happened? Like, why is it? Because something has to happen for something to be haunted or cursed, right? Like, it doesn't just show up and it's just cursed. It doesn't. Not usually. There were many other black-owned towns, like really successful black-owned towns and stuff, like Tulsa. And before Lake Lanier was Lake Lanier, it was one of those places. I also wanted to do this video too because, like I said, I live in southern Georgia. Let me just say I live in Georgia in general. Georgia in general. And the company I now work for, they started in 1920. And they have this whole story how they started with just one barrel of oil. Their great-great-grandfather, whoever, found a barrel of oil and he started this whole massive empire. It's like an oil and gas company, but they also own like a bunch of stuff. I work for this company and I do like technical work for all this entire company. And this whole company is family owned, like at the top. Family owned. I think like the guy who's running it now, the CEO now, is the son who's like in his 30s, and the dad is still like on the board. He's like in his 60s, 70s. And that made me think, like, honestly, if these white people hadn't burned down all these black owned towns, I could seriously be working for a black owned oil and gas company right now, or a hospital, black owned hospital, or anything. And I'm just like, I'm like, I'm so sick of working for the same type of people where it's like executive board, all old white men, or just all white men in general, because that's what it is now. There's nobody at my company at the executive level who is a minority. They're all white men. But yeah, that really made me think, and I was actually like looking into this while I was at work at lunch, and I'm like, I really could have been working for a black company if they weren't all burned to the ground in the 1920s, because that's when Tulsa was burned, was 1920. And what I'm going to tell you about Lake Lanier, this started in before Tulsa. And there were many other towns like this as well, and I'm probably going to go through all of those as well over time, of course. So let's get started with Lake Lanier. Okay, so Lake Lanier, like I said, there are a lot of legends, local tales and legends about Lake Lanier. A lot about it being cursed and to not go there because you may likely die or see a ghost or get cursed or what have you. And I've heard these tales since I was a kid, but nobody ever really elaborated on them. So Lake Lanier is actually a man-made lake. It is not natural. It wasn't there before. First, it belonged to the indigenous people, of course, who were here in America before anybody. And then afterwards, after many of the black people were freed, they took over certain parts of what is now Lake Lanier. It became like black towns, or at least portions of it. Anyway, because Lake Lanier is actually a combination of a bunch of different counties. So in the 1950s, the U.S. Army Corps actually bought Lake Lanier from about 700 families who owned land out there. And they bought this land from these people. These are all black people, by the way. They bought this land from these people because they, Atlanta was just now up and coming, and they saw that it was gonna be like huge. And they needed a better way to provide food and electricity, etc., and to like lessen the floods. So they decided that they would purchase this land from all these families. And this land had been in these families for generations and generations. And at the time when they purchased this land from these families, they ensured these families that they were paying them top dollar for their land, which was a lie. Which is a lie. If anybody ever comes to you and tells you they're paying top dollar for something that's been in your family for generations, and they're obviously lying to you, because you can't really put a price on that. Especially land. Land is so invaluable, especially right now, because you can't make more of it. And this was farmland, so they were making money off of their land as well. It wasn't just like houses and stuff. This was a prominent like farming community. So I'm not sure if they did it because the families were going through a hard time at the time, which I couldn't find any real reason why they would do that. I don't know, maybe they just wanted to get out of the South finally and go north, because like I said, it was still Georgia. So even though Lake Lanier is further north than southern Georgia, obviously, it's still Georgia. It's still the South in America. So yeah, I mean, still 1950s, still racism, still a lot. And you already know they didn't pay them top dollar because they were black people. So obviously they're not going to give them the actual top dollar for their land and stuff. They probably meant like, oh, this is top dollar for you people. But that was it. But yeah, the families found that money that they received quickly ran out. But I really looked, I could not find like why they would sell their land like that. So in total, the government paid for 50. The government bought 56,000 acres of land from all these families, like collectively. And they built a dam on the Chattahoochee River in 1956 to form the lake. So whatever the families left is buried underwater. Like, obviously not things that can float, like nothing wooden or anything like that. This is buried underwater. They said they moved all that stuff, like stuff that could potentially float up and harm boats and stuff. They said they moved all that stuff. Like, the government took that stuff out, but I read that there is like a racetrack under there. It's still under there. They took out the bleachers and stuff though. They relocated bridges and barns. Anything that could be potentially hazardous. And they even like took out trees. But there are still racetracks under there and old roads. So apparently when the water level drops, you can see that stuff under there. And there are a bunch of videos on YouTube with people like diving in Lake Lanier and checking it out, seeing what's under there. And some people claim that they can hear church bells coming from the water, from buried churches under the water and stuff, which is exactly possible. Even if they did leave a church under there and church bells, you wouldn't be able to hear them from all that water. This is like a haunted church. I don't know. But they did leave unmarked graves. They're, like, as you can imagine, it's 56,000 acres. So there were several cemeteries. But ancient artifacts and stuff from native people and unmarked graves from black people and native people were left under there, under that water, because they said it was too hard to find family members for these people because they were unmarked, of course. But my thing is, they could just move them. They could have moved them to another cemetery and just put like an unmarked gravestone. Like, you know how they used to do like the cross? They could have just done that. Like, why would you just, I guess maybe that was too much work for them. I guess they didn't really care. Let me just say that. They didn't really care. If they did, they would have moved them and just moved it to a new cemetery and just put like an unmarked headstone there or something. So, but they didn't care enough to do that. So that aids in the whole superstition that the lake is haunted, and aids in a lot of the beliefs that the lake is cursed and haunted and stuff, because there are literally people buried underneath it, who can never be recovered. So since 1994, about more than 200 people have drowned in the lake accidentally that we know of. That's the number that's been reported. It's like 204 or something. So, and people keep going there. People keep going there. The locals love it. Tourists love it. And a lot of people go because of the ghost stories and the stories they hear. They want to go, so they go. And people are reporting hearing voices coming from the lake. They've reported feeling hands coming from under the water and grabbing their legs or their ankles or whatever and pulling them down. Some people believe it, some people don't. I don't know. I think anything's possible, honestly. Especially if you like still have all those unmarked graves under there. Like I would not be swimming over somebody's grave. Like, come on. That's messed up. So one of the most famous urban legends involves these two women that drove their car. I'm assuming it was an accident. That happened. So these two women, they were in the same car and they crashed their car off of the lake off of the bridge into the lake in 1958. So like 2 years after it was done, they crashed their car into the lake. And People have reported that ever since then, they've seen the lady in the blue dress walking around the lake, lost and confused. And everyone believes it's one of the women who died in that car crash. I feel like every city has that lady in a dress walking around, lady in a white dress, lady in a red dress, lady in a blue dress story attached to their town or something. So Lake Lanier is actually in North Georgia, between Beaufort and Gainesville. And if you know, I don't know, if you're from around here, you know where that is. So like I said, it was officially completed in 1956, and one of the most famous towns that is part of Lake Lanier, that made up Lake Lanier, is Oscarville. And Oscarville is where some bad stuff happened. Is where basically Tulsa happened in Georgia. The original Oscarville was located north of Forsyth, and it was founded in 1870. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my eyes. I never know what I want to do with my eyes. So Oscarville had the reputation of being a great farming town. The farmers there, they were able to survive the Great Depression. They survived a boll weevil attack. So they made it through all those things just to be bought out by the government later on. So that sucks. But because Oscarville was known for being a great farming town, for some reason that made it easier for the government to buy them, to get the land. And with the help of William B. Hartford, the mayor at the time, it was pretty easy for them to get it. So like I said, Atlanta was growing and they needed the land basically because of that. They're like, Atlanta's growing, so we're gonna need this land for them. So for 2 years, the Newport Dam development worked with the court system to ensure that they would be able to seize the land. So they were going to get that land one way or another. They were like, either they were going to buy it or they were just going to take it. They were going to get that land one way or another. It wasn't even a question about it. And they asked all but 5 families in the area to forfeit their land to build the dam. So, like I said, Oscarville was a prominent farming town, and that is what they would like to be known for. But unfortunately, they have a sordid history. Like I said, their history is similar to what happened in Tulsa. And in Tulsa, as we know, a young man was about to be lynched. A young black man was about to be lynched because somebody falsely accused him of touching or raping a young white woman, and it didn't happen, and they were going to lynch him without cause or without any sort of evidence or anything. And this sparked the whole fight between the residents, the black and white residents there. And in Oscarville, the original Oscarville, because there is a new Oscarville now, the original Oscarville in 1912, there were lynchings. And similar situation happened, except in this situation, it was a young white woman who's 18, and she was raped and murdered. And 2 young black men were hanged for the crimes, for the crime of her assault and murder. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So in 1912 in Oscarville, a girl who was 18 by the name, she was a young white girl, by the name of Sleety Mae Crow was raped and murdered. And the 2 arrested for her rape and murder were two young black men. One was 16 and one was 18. Their names were Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel, and they were hanged for her murder. The two were hanged on October 25th, 1912, and they were part of a group of people who were arrested for Sleety's sexual assault and murder. And one of the two young men was so small that they actually had to make a special noose for him because they didn't want him to be decapitated and spray the crowd with blood. So yeah, like I stated with Tulsa, this was an event for white people. They would come from all around, gather all around, like it was a picture show. They would come and picnic and watch a hanging. Like they would, like I said in Tulsa, the Tulsa video, they would sometimes take pieces of the bodies as souvenirs. And I'm like, that is why. They would take pieces of the bodies as souvenirs. They would make these cards, like trading cards and of the hangings, and trade pictures of the bodies and stuff. It was bizarre. But yeah, they would come. It was men, women, and children of all ages, all white, to watch a hanging. And in this particular instance, it was thousands of them to watch this hanging of these two young men. So yeah, this was a form of entertainment for them. Yeah, they hated black people. They hated black people. I don't know how else to say it. But it's also so weird because I always wonder too, like, in a lot of these instances, like, the people who are killed for the murder or rape of these white women, they're obviously innocent. And, like, these people were, like, at work or miles and miles away and couldn't possibly be there and have done this. And I'm like, wouldn't the families of this girl actually want the person who actually did it, black or white, to be held accountable? Now, not just some random black guys. Like, I would want the person who actually killed my kid to pay for it, not just some random people who had nothing to do with it. But maybe their hatred was so great that they didn't care. They just wanted to watch some black people die. I don't know. I always wonder that because it makes no sense to me. And in some cases, like, the boys are too young or too small to even actually have done it. So it's like, it's just stupid. But even though these boys were charged, I don't even know if they were actually charged. Like, I don't even know if they actually went to court or if they were just killed. But even though these boys were killed for this girl's murder, her murder is still marked as unknown or unsolved. But yeah, I don't think they cared, because the white farmers there, they saw the black farmers as a threat to their livelihoods. A lot of the white farmers were struggling at the time, and they blamed the free black people for that. And yeah, a lot of the white farmers were getting their land taken away and foreclosed on because they were struggling, and they blamed the black people for that. So obviously there was racial violence because, like I said, struggling, poor, getting their land taken away. They blamed black people, so there was racial violence, and about 1,100 black people left due to that, to escape the racial violence. But yeah, the stories of Oscarville are still passed down to this day in the Forsyth area. Again, if you're from Georgia, you know about all this, or you might. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't the first or last hanging over there. I've heard about a lot, especially being a kid. Like, even recently, I've been looking for a new job, and I've seen jobs posted over there in Forsyth. And I think I mentioned it, I don't remember if I mentioned it to my grandmother, my mom, or somebody, but I mentioned it to them, and they were like, don't go there. It was like, even still to this day, like, don't go there. No. Because even though this whole country is caked in blood from what happened in the past, like it's certain area that's still very heavily caked in blood, and the tension is still very much there. I guess the stories of what happened in these types of places are still passed down from generation to generation. And in 1987, long after the hangings of the two young men in 1912, this whole racial tension in that area came to a head. It even involved like famous local leaders. Oprah Winfrey went up there and took her show, and it was still very, very much heavily racist tension, racial divide up there. White people were very open about their hatred for black people. It was saying the N-word and carrying around nooses and stuff. I remember seeing a clip of this from Oprah's show. I never really watched the Oprah show, but I remember seeing a clip about this and hearing her talk about it a long time ago. I think it was just because we live in Georgia, so it was like a big thing here. Like, oh, Oprah came to Georgia. But yeah, and I remember seeing clips of her going there and like traveling around and stuff, and it was disgusting. But yeah, it's still very much heavy. Today, Forsyth, that whole area where Oscarville was, is still a very much heavily white population, a very much heavily white populated area. It does have a growing Asian and Latino community and about 4% black people. But it is, Forsyth, that area has known as one of the most wealthiest counties in America. Yeah. So that was a bit about Lake Lanier. I was curious as to why or what made it haunted or cursed, and I found out. It's a bunch of different stuff. Honestly, it's a bunch of different stuff. There's bodies buried under the water, there's blood on the land, there's generations of farmland buried under there that I really wonder how much these people were paid for their land. It couldn't have been much, because within a few years they were out of money, from what I read. So it couldn't have been much. But like I said before, they were going to get it no matter what. So I think it was like a situation where it's like either you take the money and leave, or we're going to take the land anyway and you still leave. Because that's what it very much seemed like. But yeah, because I mean, it's the government. It was 1950s. They were black people. They didn't give a damn. So yeah. And that's crazy though. They went through all of that, so much, just to have it taken away. They survived the Great Depression. I'm sure tons and tons of droughts, because this is Georgia. So a bunch of droughts, flooding, and just to have it taken away, you have to move somewhere else and figure out what you're gonna do now other than farm. Wow. But yeah, like I always say, I implore you to read more about this, because I'm sure there's tons of other stories and ghost stories and stuff about this lake. Yeah, but like I said, people like being touched and hearing their names called from underwater and stuff like that. But yeah, read more on it if you want to find out more about it. It is very interesting. It's all very interesting to me. The history of it, the ghost stories, it's all very interesting to me. And I'm glad I found out about it and I read more about it. So that kind of resolved my little curiosity about the place that I've heard about since I was a kid. Yeah. I'm curious about going to Forsyth now. Like, it's one of the richest counties in America. Like, I really want to go now and see it. Like, see what's up. I feel like though, like I've been to places in Georgia where you could just like feel the racial tension and just feel like you're not welcome. Like I can feel that, like I'm not welcomed here. Or feel like I'm in danger. Honestly. But yeah, there are some places around here like that that just make you feel like as a minority you're not welcomed and like don't come here or leave or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I feel like that would be for it. But I do want to go see it because I'm curious. Because I feel like there have been some places too where you go as a minority and they're like, are you lost? Do you need help? It's like, bitch, no. I know where I am and I know what I'm doing. But I feel like that would be more that vibe there. Are you lost? What are you doing here? That is it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Please read more up on this to find out more. And yeah, I'll talk to you next time. Hopefully it won't be a month. Hopefully it won't be a month. But alright, I'm trying to be more consistent because I feel a little better now. I'm just really busy. But yeah, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I need to wash my hair. I don't know. I'll see you guys next time. Alright, bye!